Welcome to the Grinders Table, the podcast where we sit with C-suite executives and founders who are taking their industry by storm to figure out how you can build an exceptional career and business. Together, we'll try to uncover how they are both defying the odds and what you can learn from their experience. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Grinders Table. And today we have with us a very interesting personality. And like I always do, I don't introduce people, I allow them to introduce themselves in their own words.
No, now I want you to introduce me.
No. So Blessing, tell us, who are you?
Wow. As I always say, it's always difficult to wrap up over decades of your life in very simple terms. But people know me as the branding and communications genius who helps them find their uniqueness and tell better stories. But in other ramifications, I do this as a co-founder and director of communications at Ingressive for Good. My company that I co-founded and I was CMO at just got acquired by Flutterwave, and that made the news. So, but at night, I am just a babe who is trying to leave the world and people a little better than I met them.
Interesting. So a company you
Co-founded.
Well, semantics, the same thing, got acquired. How did that feel?
Oh my God, it was a bittersweet experience, and I'm not at liberty to talk about all of the emotions that I felt. Yeah, but I'm happy that it happened. It was better than the other option.
Okay. But I'd like to still dig deep into that. Okay, tell us your work at the previous company. What was the most fulfilling part about building that company?
Oh my God, definitely the growth, the exponential growth. It was unexpected. Not by me, of course, because I know I can grow things. I just have that ability to grow things. However, at the time, it didn't look likely because we didn't have money. We really didn't have anything. We just had ourselves and a stellar team, right? And we were really determined to get the product out to creators, and we had to, one of the things I love doing is experimenting. I like seeing how far can this experiment go. And in one of those experiments, we were actually in many of those experiments we were able to get great results, and in many we weren't able to. But the growth was interesting. The partnership was interesting. Coming up with unlikely ways to grow a company was interesting. But then the community was the most important and the most fulfilling thing for me, because it's one thing to have users, but it's another thing, it's a whole different ball game to have a community that is engaged, that carries your products on their head and they're hawking it on the streets. It's like they would fight for you. They will attack other brands to let those brands know that they should stay on their lane because this is the lane that they have chosen. And that was really interesting to watch. I knew that I could build communities, but building a community that is as crazy, like with a crazy fan base like Apple and Samsung and Coca-Cola, oh my God, that was fulfilling.
Interesting. So let's take a step back. I see that you studied biochemistry. How did you go from biochemistry to branding and comms?
Oh wow, that's a deep question. By the way, my voice always sounds better than this. I don't know what's hanging in my throat. I hope it's not coming through in the audio. Guys, I have a sexy voice. Okay. So how did I go from biochemistry? Backstory, which you already know. My father wanted me to be a medical doctor, but I wouldn't just say it was only my father, because somehow he pitched that goal and dream to me and it made sense to me. I think this must have stemmed from a time where he got bitten by a snake, and then I just saw how a doctor took care of him, and we both, agreed that medicine was the path for me. I was then crazy about people like Christina Yang or Grey's Anatomy. Ben Carson, name the book, I read it. I was already in neurosurgeon in my head, and this time I think there were only 2 neurosurgeons in Nigeria, and I was crazy about this dream. So when it was time to pick a university, my dad picked a private university. They didn't have medicine, right? And he didn't want me to go abroad at the time, so we picked a course. It was like microbiology or biochemistry, which makes more sense to a medical path. And he goes biochemistry, right? And so he picks up my biochemistry, and we're, on the path. I am in the school. I'm looking at my lecturers. My lecturers are looking at me. And I'm wondering who sent me because, yes, it was interesting, but I kept thinking about, okay, so what next? I'm passionate about, I want, yes, as I said, I want to leave people better than I meet them. I want to save lives. I want to see people healthy and happy. It's a fulfilling dream and whatnot. But is that the only way to save lives? Is medicine the only way? And when you start doing all those de novo pathways and stuff, you really ask yourself questions. So, but while I was on this journey, I was also finding myself, because I'm a restless spirit and I just have to accept it now. Let's just call it restless spirit. I'm a restless spirit. I can't just do one thing. It would drive me mad. So I was always looking for something else to do, something outside of work, something I could debug my body with. And I would go to, I was part of groups, I was part of clubs. One of the clubs I was part of was the public speaking club, which at the time was run by our registrar. And the registrar then, split us into groups and made us form businesses, fake businesses obviously, made us form businesses. And then these formed businesses that we did were able to pitch for those businesses, write business plans, do proposals and all of that. I was winning at this stuff. I taught myself and I was winning at it. My group, I think we won. I can't remember if we won our thing, but then from that people started reaching out to me to help them write business plans, right? And I was writing them. It's just that mine had a cute spin on it. It had this very creative part, especially the marketing plan of the business plan, right? It was always so ingenious, so smart. I was always finding interesting things. I even had a client on retainer. I was such an entrepreneur. Sorry, I had to take a moment to, clap for myself. Like, what? I was such an entrepreneur in university, right? And with all this going on, one of my friends, funny enough, no, your sister, who is also my friend, reached out to me and said, Blessing, this thing you're doing is really interesting. Or do you want to maybe go to Orange Academy? Because like that's a place where they do a good merger of branding, and it's something called branding, which is a good merger of business and marketing, and literally writing a business plan. So I go ahead, I study branding, and I'm like, I'm home. Branding and communications, it was like, what, a match made in heaven. And that was how that really started. I then started working at agencies, always had this great sensibility between strategy and executing the creative side as well, which is not surprising seeing that I did both science and arts in school. I was the only student who did that. But yeah, that journey was interesting for me. I was the only staff at my agency who did both strategy and content creation, right? And community management. So yeah, that's how we got here. Just all that, all that going up and down. Landed a non-tech role in tech companies and blah 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 blah.
So you mentioned my sister, your friend,
Yes.
that helped you find the path that you are in now. Let's talk about friends and building a community or circle around you and how it's important for career growth. How's your circle of friends helped you grow in your career and in business?
Hey God, I used to pride myself in being able to pick friends, because I mean, you're one of my friends. You're one of my early friends. I've known you for like a decade plus, right? I pride myself in being able to pick friends. I know how to pick people based on conversations, interests. Like I wouldn't pick a friend just because I can get something out of you. I would pick it would be from a conversation. You know how I would always argue the opposite side for no good reason, just to see how far that person can go, right? So if you're the person who would always get irritated and angry and annoyed, we can't be friends, because it means you probably do not care about like learning other perspective, and it's like you're hugging your own ideas and your ideals, and it's just, you will suffer with me, right? And so just having great conversations, that has been such a great way to cherry pick the people that that there is an alignment. Like we don't have to agree on the same things, we just have to have the same, not the same, but very similar passions for the things that we care about, whether or not they're the same or whether they're different. One of the ways I like to also think about that is like, anyway, let me not ramble. But like,
No, Rambo.
I'm allowed?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what kind of cool podcast is this? I love it. Okay, so with picking my friends, we would always have conversations. We would always test ideals. We would sit on opposite sides of the conversation and go at it for hours, but we would never insult ourselves, right? And just like knowing that boundary of respect, that boundary of we believe in different things but we can still be friends, those things are really unique and special in friendships. So I don't make friends because of something that I need from them. I make friends based on synergy. I would also like be very careful. I will tell you, 2020 was a terrible friendship year for me because I was just like, what's happening? Adult friendships, are they changing? Are the dynamics changing? But then I realized that there is a part to play that understanding, like there's a place that understanding has in friendships where the level to which you understand yourselves will affect how you, the amount of grace that you give yourself, right? So making sure that you don't judge your friend from a negative perspective, like you just assume the best until they prove you wrong. That has just been my mantra lately. Ensuring that, my friends contribute to our careers. I wouldn't say all, most of my friends are very, because beyond just your personal life, you also have a work life, right? And we keep thinking about how can we help each other grow. If you had an idea, for example, I don't think you'd be scared to banter with me, or you'd ask me, I mean, look at this podcast, we're here, we're doing it, right? So it's like, how can I be there for my friend in the way that they need me, that contributes to them personally and also in their careers? So I have friends who care about me and they want to see me win, and I also care about them and I want to see them win.
Well, hold on. I have a thought. I'm sorry for butting in.
No, you're allowed. It's your
Where
podcast.
is the where is the part of being selfish in all this? Because I am of the belief that everybody is inherently selfish, and everybody should do things that advance themselves in one way or the other.
We've had this argument before. It's like and I think somehow after all the arguments, we came back to the same agreement, which is everybody is selfish and selfless. It's like, to be selfish, you need to be selfless, and to be selfless, you need to be selfish. If you're just one thing completely, you wouldn't win at the other, right? So yes, you're selfish. Yes, take your time out and recalibrate, because if you're an empty cup, you can't give it in, and you just often be a drowner. Like, you just be drowning everybody's spirit in your sadness and murkiness. However, if you take a step back sometimes and just heal, but give us heads up with that, oh hey guys, I'm going on a break, as opposed to just disappearing, so we don't think you're going into a deep down hole and nobody gets why you're going, except this is a thing that you've always done and your friends are used to it, right? But like, just announcing your breaks, announcing, oh guys, I need some time out, I'm taking a break, I need to recalibrate. Just like communicating. I think communicating has to be one of the most difficult things that I've realized that people struggle with.
Oh yes.
And there are levels to this
You
communication.
think it's easy, but
There's first the using the words.
yeah.
Then there is not using the words, but your body actions. Then there is the understanding based on, like, what's it called? I want to use the word, I don't want to say track record, but like just based on things that have happened in the past. It's like context. Yeah, there is context. There's context. Then there is also the understanding from that person's POV. It's like the way you're saying it, is that how they're saying it? I sometimes have this conversation with myself that we all know that the alphabet A is A, but are we convinced that we all see A the same way? It's like the way I interpret A, is that how you interpret A? And so just understanding that people have different perspectives, and sometimes you need to take the extra effort to explain your perspective out of empathy for the next person. That is really important. Also understanding that sometimes it's not about you. You're just collateral damage in the person's journey. Understanding that is important. Knowing when to walk away is important. Knowing that you don't have to be friends with everybody is important. Like, knowing people who should be in your close-knit circle that you want to share like really personal stuff with. Like, having compartments for everything is important.
Knowing how to listen too.
Yeah, knowing how to listen is important. Like, not every friend is a friend in equal measure, and not every friend can handle everything, all your baggage at the same time. So pace it, pay attention, notice, like, study your audience of friendship. But yeah, life is so much easier when you're navigating it with friends, because there are opportunities you will never see that they will see and tell you about it, right? But also your willingness to listen, to experiment, to try. Also knowing that you are not the target audience for all their advice, and it is still your life, and you get to weigh it based on your, like, what works for you. All of that is important.
That was quite a mouthful, and that made too much sense.
I know now. You did feel like, sorry guys, this is not how I am.
So you said you're a restless spirit, and a lot of people growing careers, people growing businesses, creative people, they tend to be very restless, right? You call them multi-potentialite, or whatever name that we've used to describe them. People that have many ideas, are involved in so many things, think that being busy is being part of the creative process. How do you narrow down your focus to the things that really matter to you?
Oh wow, that's such a profound question. Please note that being restless and being busy are not the same thing. Please, my people. You could fill your days with tasks that don't matter, and that's just you being busy, just because you want to be able to tell your friends that, oh guys, I'm busy. In fact, if you catch yourself always saying I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, you want to stop for a minute and check your life and say, wait, these things that I'm busy doing, do they add to my overall goals, the goals that I've planned for the next year, 5 years, 10 years? Are these things contributing, or am I just doing mundane work that I could have outsourced, that a tool could
Absolutely.
have done for me? That, I just like imagine people who used to still transcribe when their tools like otter.ai, right?
Or Fireflies
Or
or AI. Yeah.
fireflies.ai. It's like there is a tool to do that for you. You don't even need to be a secretary to yourself anymore. You don't need to be taking notes. And so things like that are just really important, like narrowing that. But there's a book that I've been reading this year, which is like, it's called Essentialism. And that book just sort of put things in perspective. It talks about a guy who was always trying to please everyone, always trying to do all the different work that anybody gives him. It's like he doesn't say no to anything. Anything you ask him for, he's like, yes, please bring it on. However, what then happened was he kept producing mediocre work. And the company was ready to fire him because he's like a yes man who does everything for everybody but doesn't do anything excellently. And so they were ready to fire him, but his coach told him, as opposed to doing all those things you're doing, pick what you would have done as a consultant. Focus on doing that excellently and see if there's a difference. And he did that, and his life changed forever. So think about things that you can say no to. As a multi-potentialite, I would say some things, not everything has to be monetized. This is something I've written about countless times. Like, not everything has to be what's it called, monetized. Not everything has to be a what's it called now,
Full-fledged
a
business.
full-fledged business. Not everything has to be a side hustle. So know the things that are for yourself, that you use to recalibrate yourself and recenter yourself. Things that you just do for the passion of it, that doesn't bring you money. Because once it starts bringing you money, you then need to, or once it starts being the primary source of your money, or your secondary source of your income, next thing you're stuck at is, oh, how do I get clients? How do I pay salaries? How do I do
Stressed.
My dear, the running of a business is very different from the passion of that particular skill. So it's very important to know that difference. It's also important to say, if today was my last day, if this week was my last week, if 2022 was the last year that I had to leave, is this how I would be spending my time? Multi-potential or non-multi-potential? And the other thing that I try to tell people is, once you have double potential or more than one potential, interesting thing you can do is marry them together. If you're a data person who knows how to design, you have an extra hand over a lot of data people, because most data people are numbers people. They don't know how to visualize it in a way that is beautiful and sexy, that people would want to read the data or interpret that data. But you now have a superpower that makes you special. So if there are two things that you can marry together, marry it. If it's something you can use as a supporting skill to make one better, let's say me now, I like to talk, as you guys can hear, but I like to talk, plus I'm trying to do comms. I'm going to try to talk and build relationships while talking.
And she likes to argue.
Guys, that's not my brand. I don't know what he just said. But yeah, I don't like to argue. I like to test other concepts. I love it. Hey, God. Love it.
Oh my God, you're a big scam.
But it's true now. It's important to test opposing concepts. So sometimes you don't know what you would discover. It's like, just argue for the other person just for the sake of it. Maybe it might put you in their shoes to help you understand where they're coming from. It's an interesting exercise to try. Try it.
You mentioned the book called Essentialism, right? What other book, podcast, newsletters, resources would you like to recommend to the listeners?
Oh my God, guys. I am a learning nut. However, I always recommend that don't read stuff just because I said it. Don't read stuff because everybody's posting it. Read what is valuable to your life at that time, something that you think is going to add value to your life or answer a question or challenge that you're currently facing. So one book that I have been reading is Keep Going. Most of 2021, I was not present. It's like I had to be somewhere else for my family and juggle my work and all of that. So I couldn't be present for my community, my social media community. But they were so kind, they were so sweet, and they stayed with me, right? Now I have a fan page. Oh my God. Guys, sorry. It's exciting. It's not easy to have a fan page. Do you understand? Somebody created fan page for me. Oh, okay. So for the sake of the international
You're so
audience.
traumatic.
Okay, so the book that I've been crazy about is Keep Going: 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad by Austin Kleon. And that was just something that I really needed to read at the time. Oh my God. That was the book that taught me about the power of days. How you don't have to, overwhelm yourself with the big goals. Just think about what little tiny thing can I do today that would add or contribute to that big goal that I have. And every single day, just do something, because progress, of course, is worth way more than perfection. Another book that I would recommend is Poke the Box, which speaks about the ability to take initiative. How, and I know you probably saw this when you worked in, yeah, like when you worked in the physical office 9 to 5, I definitely did see this, where there would be a light bulb that is dead, but nobody is going to move an inch. Everybody will complain about it, but nobody's going to move and actually just change the light bulb. And how much is light bulb? But there are few people who do take initiatives, like they pick trash, they would do things nobody sent them to do just
They're
because.
not in their job
Yeah, they're not
description.
in their job description, but they know that it would make a difference. And so Poke the Box was one very insightful book that talked about instigation energy and how that can be a form of wealth in itself, because people have ideas but not a lot of people execute, right? And so that is really interesting. So Poke the Box by Seth Godin, Keep Going by Austin Kleon, and of course Essentialism by Greg. Oh my God, and there's this last one that I'm reading that talks about the different routines of artists, that helps you see the way different artists spent their lives while they lived back in the 1800s and 1900s. Such a great book. Yeah.
So we've been speaking to Blessing Abeng, co-founder, Ingressive for Good, expert at branding,
Yes.
expert at marketing.
Yeah,
What
building
else?
just anything that has to do with branding. When you say branding or communication, it sounds too serious. If you need to find what makes you special, and you need to learn how to communicate that thing that makes you special and tell stories to your audience that would make them believe in you, trust you, buy from you, and become a fan, Blessing is the person to go to.
How can people reach you?
Oh, social media. Blessing Abeng _ because somebody took my Blessing Abeng. However, anywhere you search for Blessing Abeng and put like Blessing Abeng Instagram, you find me. But the best way to now reach me is through my tribe at the BA Tribe. Okay, guys.
Okay. As we round up, there is one question I'd like you, or something I'd like to talk about, because we really, I've had a very long conversation. This is probably the longest conversation I've had with anybody on the podcast.
It's vibes.
On the Grandest Table.
Vibes.
You have an interesting perspective on mentorship, and it might not be what everybody believes, right? So I'd like you to share that.
Okay, guys, so I don't know why he's bringing up privileged conversations, but yeah, as I've said earlier, Women and I talk a lot about random things. We don't always agree. Mentorship was one of those things we didn't really agree on until now we agree. I don't believe that you need to have a one-on-one mentor that you need to call all the time and have conversations with. I think that people can mentor you from afar, and you could study their lives, read their interviews, read their books, because in those places they show the best versions of themselves and give you the most authentic advice that they would have followed, even if they're probably not following it in their real lives. And so that's such an interesting way to be mentored. Another important thing you need to do in mentorship or in mentor spaces is that you need to think about the person's time. You need to think about the value that you can give that person. You can't always be taking all the time from people that you look up to. Instead, give to them as well. Ask them questions. What can I do for you? What do you need? Study them. What problems are they facing? Are there things that you can help with? Is there someone you know that you can connect them with, so that you can also be of value and not be a parasite? And in doing that, always come back with like honest feedback and say, oh, this was something that I did based on the advice that you gave me, and this was how it worked out. What do you advise that I do, right? And that's just such a better approach, giving people feedback based on, showing them that you're actually practicing the thing that you said you will do, or based on words that they gave you.
Oh, she's forgetting to add the parts of friendship and mentorship.
Oh, wow, that is really important though. It's like knowing, how do I go into this? Like, just build relationships, right? But don't build it based on the things that you want only. You can't build a friendship or a meaningful relationship if you're taking all the time. Do you get what I mean?
No. You're not saying the part that I actually wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah, still the part for me.
The parts of knowing that your mentors are human.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, so that give your mentors grace. They're human. They will mess up. They will show you things, parts of their lives that are imperfect, and you just have to go with it, right? Go with it as in don't copy them, but just understand that they're human and just give them grace to make mistakes. But don't be too attached to them in a way that you lose respect or lose relevance. Two things can be true. It's possible that your mentor is a great business person, but just not a great individual in their personal lives. And just like knowing that difference and knowing how to navigate it is really, really important.
Okay, so how do we round this off? Would you leave us with 3 things that the listeners can always recall?
Okay, so 3 key things that I want you to remember. Number 1, in navigating friendships, remember that sometimes it's not about you. It might just be what your friend is going through and you are just collateral damage, and it's up to you to decide if you are comfortable just taking this one for the team, or if you never want to just be part of this again and you can, take your leave. The second thing is to value your days and just understand that there is so much you can do in a day, right? But you can just pick one little thing that you're going to do that is going to add value in the grander scheme of things. But the most recent thing that I've learned is being done with a day. Like, finish your days. When you're done with a day, it might go the way you want or it might not go the way you want. And either way that it goes, just write about it somewhere. Just vent to your laptop or to a diary or to a journal or to a podcast. Just like vent, right? And just be done with that day. In 1 year time, that day might become relevant again, and you might remember that this was the exact moment that changed your life forever. But just like, you have very limited time. Is a finite resource. It's very little. You have limited time on earth. Just ensure that each one you spend it with the consciousness that this could be my last, right? And I know that sounds morbid, but that is what would inspire you to truly live, knowing that you're not going to live forever. Yep, and that's it.
Awesome. That has just been amazing.
I know.
I like chatting with you.
I know.
And I'm sure the listeners can hear that.
But you should bring me back so I can talk about more like deep things that are like community building, audience development, or knowing
Obviously,
your
we can't talk about everything on one session. So we're looking forward to having you again.
Guys, I'm bribing him to bring me back. Can you tell? But this was really amazing. Thank you, OM, for putting this together.
That's all on today's episode of The Grinders Table, and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MonsieurOM. That's at Monsieur for Miss in French, OM. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.